Today on Blissfully Tea Drunk with.
Welcome to the talk show. My name is Cody. I'm your host today on Blissfully Tea Drunk with, and welcome. We have Ethan over here. He is our in-house saxophone player. Alrighty, I think we got it. And hey, Ethan, we got it. We've already started. We got it. Thank you. This has been great. Alrighty, so we're gonna move on. So for today's show,
We have a fantastic lineup for you today for today's panel. Today's conversation will be held between me, Dawn of Mei Leaf, and Glen from Lotus Tea. After that, we have Tea Drops on, which is one of the most fun, innovative tea products to come out in years. And let's go ahead and get the show on the road. Let's go ahead and get Glen and Dawn on.
alrighty, welcome. So today we have Dawn from Mei Leaf and we have Glen from Lotus Tea. So they are both two leaders in our tea community as far as vendors go because they sell pu'er tea and they sell other types of tea as well, but they have such strong dedicated fan bases and everybody loves them that I talk to. I've not ran into anyone who's truly disliked both of y'all, so I had to have y'all on. But before we start, didn't y'all see that Ethan kid play that saxophone? Isn't he something?
Who's Ethan?
What?
No, he was just here. You saw him in the intro.
Why did your hair color change? Or did something about your hair changed? I'm sorry, I'm confused. He was amazing.
Everything looks different. Yeah, the drum solo was
incredible.
Spectacular.
I had no idea he knew how to play the erhu.
Look, continuity is great on this show. Continuity is what we're known for. And I might have a different hair length. I might have had a different hair length when I had tea with Ethan, but 5 o'clock shadow things. Anyways, so why don't you both, because I always say, like, if you're going to advocate for someone, advocating for yourself is the best person to advocate for. So I hope I did a good job of introducing you two, but please, Dawn, if you want to start, introduce to everyone who you are. Like, who are you? Like, why are you important?
I definitely don't think I'm important, but my name is Don, and I am the director of Mei Leaf Tea. You may have seen me around if you've been on a tea journey. I do a lot of YouTube work, as some of you may be aware. And yeah, I'm looking forward to just sitting back and drinking tea with you guys.
Great introduction. And Glen, who are you?
I'm Glen. My wife Alamu and I run Crimson Lotus Tea. We have been about 9 years. Almost exclusively pu'er tea, but recently we started selling some black tea from Yunnan as well, and that's us, pu'er tea.
So Glen, I have to ask, because when I first got into pu'er tea, I didn't know what a sheng or what a show was, much less a tea cake. And someone told me, if you're going to get into show pu'er, don't do your research on it. Go to Crimson Lotus Tea first and try theirs first.
Oh, that's awesome.
Apparently, in the world of tea, you're known for your show pu'er, and I guess that's what a lot of people go to you for. So I want to ask you how you got into show pu'er and how you managed to have everyone gravitate towards you for that in the tea community.
Strangely enough, I got into it through coffee. I was visiting a tea shop in California, and I was a big coffee nerd, and some friends convinced me to stop at this tea shop, and it was a very specific gongfu style tea shop. Everything looked to me like the way you would go into kind of like a high-end coffee shop, like you had very interesting years and vintages of teas and things, and I didn't know anything about it, but like one looked interesting, and it turns out it was a show pour, and so they came over and showed me how to use the teapot and brew gongfu, and I mean it immediately clicked, so I didn't really have to I don't know. It just made sense to me. Sheng pu'er took a long time for Sheng pu'er made sense to me. But so I mean, I think I approached shou pu'er from a coffee background. I brew shou pu'er the way I would brew coffee. I just want something just super thick and dark and just like rich and delicious. And actually, it's funny. Even when we're in China, brewing tea at different tea houses and stuff there, they don't like the way that I brew show pour, but that's how I want it. And so I just bought the show pours that I liked to drink the way I wanted to drink them, and that came from a coffee background. And I'm assuming people also in the West came from a coffee background and maybe recognized some of what I loved about it as well.
So I guess you could say then after trying show pour, you really went into the dark depths with it.
Went into the dark depths, man. Darker and deeper.
I would say, as a general statement, and Don, if you want to respond to this too, would coffee be the best gateway for non-tea drinkers? Not coffee, would show pour be the best gateway for non-tea drinkers into tea? Because if you're to take a coffee drinker and introduce
into tea
them
or into pour or into tea in general, or
let me try this again. Oh my goodness. I had a brain cell somewhere. I don't know where it went. It's somewhere. So if you take a coffee drinker and you introduce them to show pour, would show pour be an easier gateway for them to get into tea?
Unless you have somebody brewing shang pour for you, it can be really, really difficult to brew it the way it should be brewed to express how amazing shang pour is. Show pour is crazy easy to brew in my experience. There's almost no wrong way to do it. Just put the water as hot as possible, just let it steep. It just works out good. I don't know. What do you think, Don?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always really difficult when you're trying to work out what's a good gateway or a stepping stone tea. Sometimes you sort of make assumptions which are not true. Like, for example, I always sort of made the assumption that people who like coffee may really like roasted flavors. So I sort of tend to push them into the roasted oolong territory. And then I find that doesn't work, because what a lot of the time they're doing is making direct comparisons. They're going, well, that's a different kind of roasted taste to the roasted taste I like. I think you're right. I think show pour is probably the right sort of, the majority of coffee drinkers will appreciate it because of the fact that it's dark, it's smooth, and it's relatively easy to sort of brew, like Glen says. Right. So yeah, I think show pour is good.
I think the reason. Go ahead. Sorry.
So Don, what was one of the first teas that you got into, or that for you that a tea clicked with, that made you start Mei Leaf? Because Mei Leaf does cover a wide variety of teas, but was there one specific one that a light bulb went off for you?
Yeah, way back when. We're talking over 20 years ago, even more than that now. Time flies. But a Dien Hong, a really good Dien Hong. The first time because I've been brought up around English black tea my whole life, and the first taste of a proper, really sort of silky smooth Dien Hong, that was a bit of a moment for me. I remember. Because I was dabbling with sourcing tea at that point and just trying lots of samples. And I like Tie Nguyen Yin's flowery stuff. That sort of approach that a lot of people have when they get into tea is they sort of make that jump from jasmines and things into other similarly floral sort of brews. But a Dien Hong was the one that I sort of recognized this sort of level of quality that I was really interested in exploring further.
That's the magic of Yunnan, man.
Well, then, Glen,
exactly.
Speaking of Dien Hong, you started selling black tea yourself. So to make the leap from pu'er tea into any, not just black tea, but to go to any realm that wasn't pu'er tea, what was that like for you to make that transition?
Oh, it was easy. In fact, I mean, it was we'd mostly been intentionally putting it off for a while just so that we could exclusively focus on pu'er tea, but there's just so many amazing Yunnan, Dien Hong material out there, and we'd had so much of it, and we had helped a tea company in Russia put together a set of black tea cakes, and when they had trouble selling it in the Russian market, we took over their inventory and just sold their product on our site. And it almost all of it sold immediately. It was just so good. And so I was just like, well, let's redo those blends and put our own wrappers on it this time. So it was a pretty easy decision to make.
I remember this because I got a brick of the Air Force one because it was militia themed, and Air Force, it was gone so quickly. I didn't hold on to it.
Yeah, that's Air Force is more or less what became the intergalactic blend. So that's what you want if you want any more.
So Don, I have to ask. So at this point, it's been several months since the Queen's passing, and you had to mainly shut down. But
really,
it's been about 2 weeks, right? Oh, I don't know. Wait,
your continuity is.
Maybe it's when the video.
We're in November. We're in
of
November.
course you are. Yeah.
This is
the finale. The finale's in 3 weeks. We're in November.
Of course, yeah, completely. My calendar's. Yeah,
it's been a crazy year. But several months ago, but a lot of England shut down. Since that's happened, like from your viewpoint, what has there been a shift in tea drinking since then, or was the tea industry in England affected or impacted by the Queen's passing?
No, I don't think that there was any effect at all. There was. I was actually out of the country, so I sort of was only hearing bits and bobs from my family. But clearly, it was a time where there was a sort of national feeling of mourning. But I don't think there's going to be any changes to the shelves of Fortnums and Masons after her passing, and I don't know. Actually, Charles, my good friend Charles, like we've had a lot of he's been
Prince
involved
Charles?
in the King now. Yeah, he was part of our. Well, I mean, he's been involved a little bit in natural medicine, and so I've had some contact with the royal family, and I'm sure he's been drinking some of our teas. So, or at least part of his families have been drinking some of our teas. But the Fortnums and Masons stamp is a very strong one. So I think that they'll always be the royal suppliers.
I have to ask. So instead of doing another Queen's Jubilee blend, do they change that to the King's Jubilee blend? How do companies go about that? Like, I would like to know.
Everything's changing. The money has to change. The coins change. Everything changes. So yeah, it's a bit of a complete shift. So you do sense this marking of change because like your day-to-day, like currency, everything sort of shifts. The stamps are going to change. Everything's going to change.
It's funny. The other day, I found a penny in the park, a Canadian penny, and I picked it up. It was the strangest thing. I looked. There's like a guy's face on it. It was just a handful of days after the Queen died. And I looked at it. And it was like it's from like 1944 or whatever. For like the last year that the pennies had the King on it before the Queen got her penny on the face on the stamp. I was like, oh, that's so funny.
Could you imagine if our money changed like every decade? Like I remember there's a while ago, people were pushing for Oprah to be on money. And then now people have pushed for Obama, but now people are pushing for national monuments and parks. Could you imagine if we just had like a rainbow? Have y'all seen what Swiss money looks like? It is like neon red, yellow, green, and blue.
I like it green. I like it. I like the classics. I like it.
So do I.
Yep.
Just keep it looking like money.
I guess the Queen's been around long enough, or has been around long enough. Like, I remember they released her official cause of death, and it was from old age.
That's what happens.
Yeah, I mean, that's how we all want to go, right?
Hopefully.
Well, looking at the Queen, it's like no shit.
Exactly.
Like I think we. Moving on. So you both. Because I see, for Mei Leaf at least, a lot of people rave and tell me about your Shang Pu'er. And while I hear compliments on every angle for both of you, I hear most about Shou Pu'er for Crimson Lotus tea. So because you two are tea companies, but we can still have tea together, like there's no vitriol here. I didn't want to be I want to be like very careful on what tea I drink. So I was going to drink white tea on our panel today, which I figured could be neutral because we all love them. Right. Okay. Sure. So instead, I decided I'm going to drink a Shou Pu'er and a Shang Pu'er and blend them together because y'all are both on. So Shou Pu'er represents Crimson Lotus tea.
Do it.
And Shang Pu'er represents Dawn from Mei Leaf. And we were going to have another guest on, and I'm glad they didn't join on because I was going to add Sencha to the mix. So I'm glad it's just you two because that would have been...
are those actually Shang, and is the Shang from Dawn? Is the Shou from me or not?
Oh, you put him on the spot there.
They're It's tea. It's tea from places. We respect them. Like we can all be together.
These teas are indicative of the quality that you guys produce. Yeah.
So I'm gonna let this steep here. So I've seen, because there was a tea company. I haven't seen this often, but I saw a Bitter Leaf Teas released a Shung and Sho Pu'er blend, but they did theirs with aged Shung, which to me I guess made more sense. But like in theory, it would make more sense. So I did, but I'm doing like a fresh Shung and a fresh Sho because
there's historical precedent for it. I mean, there's recorded instances, even like in the '90s, of people experimenting with like putting Shung and Sho in a cake. It's
yeah, absolutely,
it's really nothing new. And I've done it in tea tastings before. If I've got a Shung and I've got a Sho, just to kind of show people what can happen. You brew some of one, you brew some of the other, and then pour it into the same fairness cup. It can work. It can work really well.
Have you ever tried a Shung with a Dianhong?
I don't know that I have.
Check it out. It's actually surprisingly good.
All right.
I have made moonlight tea. Moonlight.
Moonlight.
Someone help me. Yes, that one. I have made that with a Dianhong, actually with intergalactic, because it's both bud heavy, and it actually turned out really good.
That sounds about right.
It's great to be able to do this. It's one of the wonders of tea. I think a lot of people become very sort of purist about tea. It's about having fun. And if you're having a session with lots of different brews, then why not mix them up?
Sure.
So you actually brought up a point that I was going to ask both of you. So there are a lot of, I guess there are snobs, but then there are purists, because I wouldn't say a purist is a snob, because purists are still open to trying whatever. Then you have people who are fans of tea companies they're purists, and they'll try anything as long as it's their favorite tea company. And I think you both have done a great job of harboring a fan base where you have dedicated and loyal people who will try anything as long as it's under your guys' umbrella. So I have to ask, did y'all anticipate to have such a loyal fan base in our niche? Like, did y'all anticipate that, or how do y'all harbor that?
You go
first.
It's
a great thing.
I'll go first. Sure.
It's a great thing. I'll say it's amazing.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if there was any way to anticipate it. I had no idea what I was getting into when I joined the tea industry 10 years ago. Learned a lot of stuff the hard way on the ground in Yunnan. But I think for me it was the most important thing was it's twofold. I mean, I wanted to focus on finding quality products, and I wanted to find teas that I wanted to drink. At that point in time, 2012, 2013, I wasn't really finding in the Western market teas, pu'er teas that really felt like they were approachable to me. And so I wanted to find the other people that were like me, the people out there who wanted to have amazing experiences with these teas, but had never even heard of them before. And then I don't have the ability to sell a tea that I don't want to drink. And so it every single thing on our site is a tea that I can and do drink. I mean, I like all of them. So it makes it super easy to sell. Like, I mean, there may be people out there that don't like a specific blend, and that's okay. But like I do. And if I like it, then it's easier for me to sell.
So the fan base and the people who are Crimson Lotus tea fans, it just came naturally. It just happened.
I guess. I don't know. I mean, customers come and customers go. Like some customers will come on, they'll like buy a bunch of teas, be really passionate about stuff, and then their tastes will change a little bit, and then they'll move to a different company and start, like going through their inventory and buying some stuff, and then they'll come back later and stuff. So I don't know if there's any actual people out there that only ever drink Crimson Lotus tea. I mean, it'd be awesome if there was, but I mean, I think people are pretty open.
But Don, over in England, it's kind of funny when you mention tea companies in England. A lot of people think is it the Twinings flagship store, and that's like a destination that people have to go to. But as your fan base is expanding, a lot of people's first thought is, "Oh, you're going to England. Are you going to Mei Leaf?" And that has shifted.
That's really It's been a big shift. I mean, that did take me by surprise. The fact that suddenly our London tea house was a bit of a destination spot for people who were traveling in. But like Glen said, I think there's a few things like you've got to learn it the hard way. I mean, we started our business in early 2000s. The tea house opened in 2002, 2003. So, you know, and I didn't start doing any YouTube activity really until 2015. So for over 10 years, I was just working the tea house and trying to learn, you know, what I loved about tea and develop the sourcing, the scouts, and, you know, developing, you know, the channels, etc. And we were doing so many workshops. I was just doing workshops and workshops and workshops that I started to sort of glaze over a little bit, because I would I would do these workshops on a weekly basis, and I would literally not have to be there because I could just hear myself speaking. You know, it was just like, it's so repetitive that then I decided to say, well, let's just record it and put it online. And the reaction has, you know, been really great. And the fans and the loyalty and you know, the community has been incredible. But I think that, like Glen said, the key really here is you're not going to get that unless you genuinely love the teas that you are selling, that you're not looking to just try to capture markets, but instead what you're trying to do is say, this is what I'm passionate about. This is my taste in tea. And people start to trust you if their tastes align with your tastes. And that's the key, like, because I think that, you know, if you haven't trained your palate and you don't have opinions about what tea you like and dislike, you can't really ever sort of engender that kind of loyalty, because otherwise it just feels a bit too sort of up in the air as to what products you're stocking.
So, am I wrong for doing this show to beat Fallon and Conan? Because I'm coming for them. That's all this is.
Aim high, brother.
But Glen, on another note too, when people say that they are going to Seattle, it's also because I've had friends through tea in Seattle, and I mentioned like, if I plan a trip to Seattle, what should I see? And a lot of their first reaction is, oh, you're going to see Glen, right?
Yeah,
so
and
you've also become synonymous with.
Well, it was tough. It was tough during COVID. I mean, because we do all of our tea tastings. I mean, just it's right here. It's at this table. It's in my living room. I think it would be awesome someday to like have like an actual like retail space and stuff. But the way our business is set up right now, and especially with like kids and stuff, it's just not feasible to really put something like that together. But yeah, we certainly make our home available, and we have just a couple months ago, we started letting people come back in, do tea tastings and stuff in here. So yeah, anybody coming through the Seattle area, they're more than welcome to swing by and have some tea with us. It's kind of nice.
So I'll start packing my suitcase then. I'll see you later. Tonight.
You've been promising that for years. I'm waiting. We're ready. We're gonna go nuts, man.
I will find my passport.
Well,
I'll find my passport and I'll launch from Seattle to you.
Yeah, exactly. Just make it a little bus stop trip. Seattle, round trip. Then come to London. Bring Glen with you, and then, you know,
that'd be fun.
We'll all end up in London and have a proper session.
Glen, can we go to England?
I'll check the calendar.
So one last final question. I'm drinking this thing here, and it is so surprising because you have the energy from Shang Pu'er in this, but it doesn't matter because I've steeped this longer than I typically would for a Shang Pu'er starting out. But the show Pu'er and the notes of the show have kind of taken the bite away, so I can still taste the Shang Pu'er, but there's more of like that velvety smoothness left over from the show. This is interesting. Was it a young Shang? It was from 2020.
Yeah. So the surprising thing that I find is that it can sometimes fake an aged Shang experience pretty well in the cup.
Yeah. Well, then I have to ask, because I've done crazy things on the show. Like later when I have drop teas on, we're gonna get into some zaniness. But I have to ask, what is the craziest? And this could be a simple answer too. The craziest, zaniest out there tea blend that you have personally tried yourself.
Don,
I would consider this.
Crazy.
Chago.
I've done I think I've done so many blends and double drop sessions of teas that most of them just fail miserably. Let me see the craziest blends. I think the crazy ones tend to be when you've got some really expensive teas in front of you, and the sort of the motivation is probably like, let's just drink this one pure, So there have been times where I can remember having like a very aged Tieguanyin, like I think it was sort of probably 1980s or so, Tieguanyin, and some Shangpua. I can't remember if it was Lao Banjiang, but it was one of those one of those tiny little samples that was just super, super pricey. And yeah, that has definitely happened before, where I've mixed some teas that probably, I shouldn't have mixed together, simply on the basis that, each sip is something precious. But I think that was it. An 80s Tieguanyin and a famous mountain shang. I can't quite recall which one.
So basically, it's all the expensive teas mixed together that would trigger the tea subreddit. But
and I don't think, and from my recollection, it didn't work at all. By the way,
I don't know about craziest blend, but I've got this really memorable, strange tea that we had in Yunnan. It was incredibly bitter, but it tasted like crisp fried bacon, and it not in like a bad way. I mean, it was really interesting, but it was definitely like a very salty, bacony tea, but then super bitter. It, for whatever reason, it actually worked pretty well. But we looked into it a little bit more, and it turned out it was just the farmer had just been using the same wok that he was cooking his dinner in to actually like process the tea. And so it very literally like had like bacon grease like in the tea. And I was like, well, I don't think we could sell this thing.
That would be called the Note tea blend.
Yeah, it was blended in with pork. It was very interesting.
Don't serve that tea in Israel.
Well, anywhere in the Middle East practically. Yeah, I mean, yes, I don't know, but yeah, it wasn't. It was very interesting.
Well, guys, this has been fantastic. We're gonna get drop teas on in a little bit, but before then, we're gonna move into our fan mail section. But we have to send you guys off. This has been fantastic. I'm glad we got to have tea together, and just why I love this show so much is that you can drink tea together with people that you would never expect to have tea with, especially all at the same time, and always ends up with some of the greatest conversations I've ever had, and I'm glad that you guys are on. So thank you for joining.
Thanks very much, Cody.
It's been a lot of fun.
Alrighty, so we're going to move on to our fan mail bit next, and we're going to see what you guys are writing in. I'm weary about what happened last week, but you know what? We're going to be positive about this. We're going to go for it. We'll see what you guys sent in, and let's move on over.
Alrighty, so as far as fan mail goes, you guys sent a lot. I also got this big box here, and I've already pre-opened it, but we're going to unwrap it here on the show. Also got a couple of more envelopes I've already pre-opened, but we're going to get them open here on the show. Alrighty, let's go ahead and read them. First one is this is a Christmas card. It's not even Thanksgiving. I'm so lucky that we are virtual friends. I hope you have a happy holidays. I hope you have a great Christmas. Merry Christmas. What was it? Okay, it's not a birthday card. I'll just say that much. It's not a birthday card. Thank you for the Christmas card. It's just different timing. I won't judge. So next we have a card that I had gotten from... Ooh, it's a cool cover. Look at this card. Cody, I saw in the last few episodes God damn it! I saw it in the last few episodes that it's your birthday. I want to wish you a late birthday. I'm sorry I missed it this year. We just went over this. Okay. I maybe the Christmas card I get because we're almost at Thanksgiving. And then after Thanksgiving is... But no, that's even a month and a half away. But my birthday... Still, what's with that? We're ignoring this. We're ignoring this. Next, we got this big box. I don't know what to expect. Let's go ahead and open it. Hold on. the hell? What? Why'd you send me a... This isn't out. Why'd you send me a light fixture? Does it work? What's the point? It's... I can't... Look, just if you want to send fan mail to my P.O. box and want to send something normal, send it to this here address. Anyways, let's move on to tea drops. All right, let's move on. This is a great, innovative idea. It's tea that you can drop, dissolve, and drink on the go. Let's go ahead and get tea drops on. Alrighty.
We just finished our fan mail, and now we're on to tea, because after that, we really needed tea time. So why don't you introduce yourself? This is great.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sasha Chandran. I'm founder and CEO of Tea Drops, and we make an assortment of bagless whole leaf teas. So it's finely ground teas that's ground to almost like a matcha powder that's compressed together into fun, whimsical shapes like heart, stars, flowers. So you don't need a tea bag. You can just take the raw tea drop, add it to a cup of hot water, and it will dissolve within seconds.
So this is such a genius idea. Like, I feel like this is something that was staring tea, like the tea industry in the face for like the past 100 years, but no one did anything. And props to you for making this like fun and accessible, because you have like the normal, like I have a star shape here. This is a chai spice, but then you also have like regular shapes too. But then you also have Hello Kitty. Like English breakfast is Hello Kitty.
Yes. Yeah.
So so I have to ask, like, what made you think of this idea and to get this off the ground?
Well, I come from a very tea influenced background, I guess you could say, growing up. So my mom is from China. So obviously there's a huge tea culture in China. And my dad is from Sri Lanka, which is also a huge producer of tea in the world. And also my dad was born on a tea estate. And so I have that influence as well. So growing up, even though my parents, they immigrated to the US, and in my childhood, I always had tea at our dining table. And whether guests came over or it was just a moment to kind of catch up with my mom after a day of school, I just loved how tea was associated with a different memory or feeling. And that's how I grew up. And so I just really fell in love with tea culture early on. And as I started working in a more fast-paced office environment, I realized that the methods to make tea are rather limited. You either have loose leaf tea, which takes a long time to brew, or you have bag tea, which sometimes isn't as flavorful or aromatic as loose leaf tea. And so you're making that compromise when you use tea bags sometimes. Also, I learned about, at that time, there were a lot of articles around microplastics in your tea with the tea bags and some of the waste factors. So I just was researching more about that. So all of that came together, and I kind of realized, well, kind of like a bath bomb, you can just drop that in hot water and your bath is made. Why can't you do the same thing with tea? So I just explored that a little bit more.
So I have to ask, because these have actual tea in them, like actual tea leaves.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you get to the idea of saying, like, when making this, what would be the right combo? Like, was there a specific tea you had in mind when making this product first?
Yeah, it was actually chai. So the chai spice that you have in that box was one of our originals. And I just love the different notes and spices in chai. And I wanted something where I could quickly make chai on the go, which was easy to do. And so I just took that as a base, the Black Assam tea as a base, and then started adding spices to it. And then figured out the form factor of how to compress it and mold it. And then that was the first tea I came out with. And I started sharing it with colleagues and friends. And when I got positive receptivity there, I just started, sharing it more and more with, selling at shows and artists. And then that's kind of how the beginnings of how Tea Drops was started.
Well, it's great because you're also a woman-run business. And I have to say, this is innovative for the world of tea, because you mentioned the tea bag. And the tea bag was probably one of the greatest overhauls in tea.
Yeah.
But that was long ago. That was 100, 200 years ago.
That was like early 1900s. I think it's like 1910. It was like the year the tea bag was invented.
Somewhere in there. But that was like 100. That was a while ago. So,
yeah.
So the tea industry is slow to change. So I've noticed a lot of tea people will jump on tea trends, but a decade later.
Yes.
So you didn't wait for a trend. You didn't wait to see what could be receptive or not. You, as a single woman or as a single owned businesswoman, you decide to release a product and go for it. So why would you say the tea industry is slow to move? And especially now that we're seeing more woman-ran businesses, like, I think it's a great thing. What can we do to see more of that as well?
Well, I think, the tea industry is one of the oldest in our history. It's thousands of years old, right? So when you have and you've been preparing tea the same exact way for thousands of years, it's easy to kind of get into a complacency, right? Like, well, this is how I do it. This is just traditional. This is how we do it. It's like, I kind of equate it to imagine like trying to get your grandparent to change how they do something or use technology, right? It's like, it's a harder to adapt.
Like getting my grandparents to stop driving. It's just not going to happen.
Exactly. It's like set in their ways. They're set in their ways. They want to drive, so I think the same thing is true for the industry. And it really takes someone who's actually outside of the industry, who's not a multi-generational tea connoisseur, so to speak, to really kind of think differently about how things can be done. And I think even though I had my parents, come from very tea-rich countries, I didn't come from the tea industry. So I was able to kind of see it from a different lens. And actually, I feel like that's why I did a lot of things differently than someone normally would in the tea industry, even from like my packaging to how we position ourselves to obviously the ingredient and the form factor is so different. So I think that's one. And then being a woman-owned business, I'm actually seeing more and more women enter the tea industry, which is really exciting. So, some of my greatest friends, like I was just mentioning in the tea industry, and I was just mentioning, there's Lisa from Big Heart Tea. My friend Monica runs the Chai Box, which if you haven't had her chai, is incredible.
I've met them. I met them at World Tea Expo. Incredible people.
She was making chai right there, right? She's like,
she was
phenomenal. To, someone who I really admired before I even started my company was Zena of Magic Hour. Formerly, she was running Zena's Teas, Gypsy Teas. So I feel like there's actually a lot of women in this industry, more so than I feel a lot of other categories. So I think that that's exciting, and I think that's only going to grow.
See, I say specifically men have been in charge for so long, and look where things ended up. And actually, specifically straight white men. Come on, we need to let women and everyone else take a whack at it, because look where we ended up. I mean, pandemic, the last two elections were a nightmare. I mean, let's let someone else in charge.
Yeah.
But we can't take charge of our tea table. So I got my mug here. So we'll try gung fuing these teas in just a second. But I want to show everyone first how it's supposed to be done. So before we got you on, I mean, while we chatted in the waiting room where you met Ethan, our saxophone player, right? Yeah. Wasn't he great?
Amazing. Love Ethan.
So while you talked and chatted with Ethan, I got acquainted, and you recommended for the citrus ginger. It's orange, lemon, and ginger. So I have it open here, and it's a flower shape. Maybe hold it to the saturation. This is a good distance.
Yeah.
Right.
Uh-huh.
So we're going to pop them down in here, and just the idea of it simple. You just pour hot water in it, correct?
Mm-hmm. Boiling hot water should be boiling temperature so that it can really steep the herbs and the tea leaves. And then you won't get sediment rising to the top of your cup. It'll really drop to the bottom. So it's a really beautiful, you see that amber color.
Ooh, and it's falling apart.
Yeah.
Like the way it should. Like this is something you want to break apart and break down. Like this is, and it smells really good. When I opened the package, the first thing I thought of was like Yankee Candle. I was like,
oh,
amazed.
I love that. Yes. I'm glad you see that.
Fun fact, I read that they got 60 to 70% more complaints over the pandemic because people stopped smelling their candles. And it's because they had COVID and couldn't smell or taste.
Is that right?
That is right. Their candles were not strong enough was the main complaint. And it was because of COVID.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let this sit for just a second. And it's really quick too, because it's mostly don't know if you can tell from here, it's mostly broken down. That's really quick. But, well, I let that finish breaking apart there. I also have the strawberry matcha green tea, and I love matcha. And for it being a matcha Monday, I mean, given that matcha Mondays in just a few days because the show's on a Friday.
Matcha Monday, I love that.
We care about continuity here. I have the Hello Kitty green tea. It's a strawberry green matcha.
And that's also in the shape of Hello Kitty's head. Do you see that?
It is, and there's the bow in it too. It's really cute.
So you're
about to do this to Hello Kitty.
That's small. You know, this is meant for 10 to 12 ounces of tea. So what you're making is pretty concentrated. Just letting you know that, you know, you can add more water to really make it kind of the flavor profile you want.
So gung fu, has anyone gung fu'd your teas before?
You know, I feel like this is the first time I'm visually seeing it. So I want to say you were one of the first. But
so I'm excited because I made one of these earlier and it was really good. So I have to try this.
Really? I'm just because I'm like, is that even long enough to steep it? Really?
Well, so the one thing I've noticed is the green tea definitely comes through in this.
Yeah.
Oh, like that's good. Like it says strawberry matcha, like it does taste like matcha. Like that is really good.
Okay, good.
And for this one, it's the citrus ginger.
That's hot. And I'm drinking Glow, which is our cinnamon hibiscus tart cherry. This one I feel is like really, really great. It's a great herbal tea. That also is an herbal tea. Really, really wonderful for your evening time or after a meal to help with digestion.
So I had another thought. Theoretically, could you eat one of these like a tea to go?
You would not be the first. I've done tons of shows, even at like ones like World Tea Expo, where people come up and they just eat it. Okay, you're just going for it.
This is the matcha Japanese green tea.
I can't imagine that's pleasant, but tastes like a cookie.
It tastes really good.
A really bitter cookie?
No, this tastes just like a matcha puck, but it's beautiful. Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. I can't believe we're doing it.
So
I think you're the first person I've ever seen eat our tea drop from end to end. Like,
do they not like finish eating them?
And you live to tell the tale. No, they take it and they like don't want to eat in front of us. So they take like at a booth, they'll take it and they walk away and like put in their mouth. And I don't, at that point, I'm not going to stop them. I just, I'm just like, okay, you do it.
Okay. So I have to say the strawberry in this is perfect. It's balanced. I loved how balanced this is. And the matcha, the green matcha, the thing, because like, I know it's not the intended purpose, but you also have another product on your hand for if you want a cup of tea, but you can't even have the accessibility for this.
Right.
You could eat one and go.
You could.
This is incredible.
Yeah, so it's really meant for, the convenience factor of if you're on the go, or imagine you're camping and you don't have all your tea equipment with you. That's one of the key reasons I started Tea Drops is I was working at an office environment and I had an arsenal of all my equipment. I had my kettle, my strainer, my tea tins, and I would try to make tea at my work desk and it would take anywhere from, 7 to 10 minutes to brew a cup of tea. And then you would have to run to your next meeting and you wouldn't be able to even enjoy it. So I created this because I wanted a simpler way to enjoy tea, a more convenient way to enjoy high quality loose leaf tea, but make it convenient on, for a more faster paced lifestyle.
So it's also one thing I noticed is because of like the sweetness factor, it's not too sweet. It's perfect because I still, for a lot of sweet drinks, and for me, I see it most in boba and milk tea. The sugar can sometimes overpower the tea, but this is perfect. Like it didn't overpower it.
Yeah, we do have the sugar content ranges, and this is where it's very subjective depending on who you are. So it's anywhere from 4 to 7 grams of sugar, which is
that's not a lot.
Yeah, about a teaspoon, I guess you could say. Maybe
that's not a lot.
Yeah, so I feel like you kind of can set the bar by adding as much water as you want or less water to kind of make it the flavor that you want.
So I have to ask one last question before we go here. What's next for Tea Drops? Because this this is genius. Like, I want to see more of this and in more places. What's next for you guys?
I mean, we're expanding the Tea Drops line into more and more retail. So you can see us rolling into your local retail soon. We also have, for the holidays, our advent calendar is back. We also have a chocolate gingerbread that we launched seasonally for the holidays. So that's also going to be back for the season. And we're always inventing and creating new formulations of tea drops, whether it's green teas, fruity teas, white teas. So you can expect that from us, and we also really love the whole bubble tea, boba tea trend. I actually think that it's a really nice treat, right? So we also have a lot of different boba products too, for you to create that cafe style boba latte iced tea right in the comfort of your own home.
So more is coming. I love it because boba, when you try to make it at home, it's not hard, but it's not easy.
Because there's so many steps and there's so many, you don't ever have the right amount of ingredients for anything, so it's like, we want to make it seamless. From your drop, you just add the drop, then you add the packet of boba, and then you add your creamer. And we have, we partner with Copper Cow on the sweetened condensed creamers.
And the thing about boba is, every time I make it and I put it out of the fridge the next morning it's just a big ball of gelatin.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you have to eat it right then and there, or drink it right then and there.
Well, this has been fantastic. So people can find you at myteadrop.com. And I have to recommend that we have a lot of tea purists, and we have a lot of tea purists, especially young food purists, who would never in a million years drink a tea like this. But even for the people who prefer just the straight, unflavored, just give me the tea as it is, I would say the matcha was still really good. And you can still, there's still a very forward tea flavor in this. I would still recommend this, even to the very, very picky purists. I would still drink this myself. This is great.
Yeah, or this is something great to kind of break up the routine, right? Like, a lot of you drink very pure matchas or loose leaf tea. If you just want something that's more of a treat, and if you're going camping and you're on the go, this is something really fun and unique. And I think the unique factor, and something that you can share with others, and it's a fun experience because of the different shapes, can be really entertaining.
Exactly. And this has been fun. And now we're going to transition over to Ethan. We're going to check in with him because he's been waiting since earlier, but I'm glad that you were here. This has been fun. Thank you for joining.
Thanks so much, Cody, for having me. Appreciate it.
Alrighty. So next we're going to move on. We're going to check in with Ethan, but first I have a very special message for you guys.
Alrighty, I have a very special announcement to make to you guys. So now that we're more than halfway with season 4, we only have 2 episodes left and a Thanksgiving special left. However, since this is the biggest season so far of the talk show, I thought we gotta go out with the bang, which is why I partnered up with Spirit Tea in Chicago. That's right. On Saturday, December 3rd at 7 p.m., we're gonna start the watch party for the finale of Blissfully Tea Drunk with. Yes, so if you want to watch the finale live with me in person in Chicago, Spirit Tea and I are going to host a viewing party, and we're going to be making and drinking tea afterwards. Again, that's Saturday, December 3rd, 7 p.m. We'll start with the meet and greet, and the episode will air promptly at 7:30. Alrighty, now that we have Ethan here waiting, let's go ahead and play us off, Ethan.
That was perfect.